So these nuggets are made from chicken, but they're made to emulate the taste of like non-chicken nuggets. So these nuggets are made from chicken, but they're made to emulate the taste of non-chicken nuggets. Dope. Let's boost that sound quality. Emulate the taste of non-chicken nuggets. Emulate the taste of non-chicken nuggets. Dope. Non-chicken nuggets. Non-chicken nuggets. But they're made to emulate the taste of vegan nuggets. Sounds tasty.
Hello, hello, hello.
I resent the face that he makes about the non-chicken nuggets because I just had vegan chicken nuggets for lunch and they were delicious.
You know, maybe we should redo the video where he's like mind blown. It's like the best
He
moment
loves
of his
it.
life.
There are some great brands out there for vegetarians. Should we spend the whole time talking about them actually?
5 key vegan nuggets. No, but before we go down this rant too far, welcome everybody. I'm Christiana. I'm on the community team. I'm joined by our host today, Arielle. Also on the community team here, podcaster extraordinaire, of course, as well. And this is 5 key Descript workflows for podcasters. Arielle, how are you feeling about today's event?
Nervous, excited, pumped. You know, I'm relatively new to Descript. I've been making podcasts for a while, but I'm really excited to be here today to share what I've learned over the past few months that I think a lot of podcasters who are either new to Descript or are revamping their workflows might find really useful. So we'll get into that and we'll get into so much more. But how are you today?
I'm doing great. I'm stoked for this. This is our first event, I think, just you and me.
I think that's right. We had the community town hall on August 17th, which was a lot of fun, but was definitely like I was very fresh. So now I've got some more experience under my belt, and we'll do some descripting.
And as you're talking about experience, maybe you're newer to Descript, but you are not new to the world of podcasting in general. Could you tell us a little bit about what your numerous podcasts are about?
Yes, I would love to. But before we do that, should we do some orientation?
For sure. Yes. I was just thinking we'd do a little warm-up moment and have everybody share as well. But let's do housekeeping first.
Yeah, I want to make sure everybody knows that they're in the right classroom.
Cool. Okay, let me turn this on for you. Take it away.
All right. So folks, today, welcome. We are just here to talk about 5 key Descript workflows for podcasters, specifically for me as a podcaster. So my thoughts here are, if you are a podcaster and you're looking to figure out how Descript could fit into your workflow, especially as somebody who might be remote recording on Squadcast and then bringing that into Descript, I'm going to walk you through that, which is why Christiana was so kindly asking me about my podcast. So I'll talk a little bit about the shows that I produce. Some of them are just me, and some of them are me and a co-host. Some of them are me, a co-host, and sometimes a guest. So I'll talk a little bit about what that looks like. Let's go to the next slide.
Cool.
Here is what we will discuss over the next 55 minutes. We've got some welcomes. We've got some intro chatter. We're going to talk about chicken nuggets. Then we'll do a little bit of background on Descript and Squadcast. I'll just orient some folks if you are familiar with Descript, but you're not familiar with Squadcast, or if you're familiar with Squadcast, but you have no idea what Descript is. We're here today to get everybody on a level playing field. Then we'll briefly touch on the Descript community because, of course, Christiana and I come from the community team. We advocate highly for community at Descript, and we want folks to get involved because it's a really great way to level up the way that you produce, whether it's a podcast, video, or anything else that you're using Descript for. Then I'll go into my top 5 tips for podcasters using Descript. I'll go through my workflow, and we will leave ample time at the end for Q&A. While there will definitely be time for Q&A throughout. While there will definitely be time for Q&A at the end, we also would love for you to drop questions throughout. we have Marcelo, who is in our chat. He is going to be answering questions in the Q&A tab. If you ask questions in the normal chat, we'll do our best to move those over to the Q&A tab. But if you could do us the solid of asking your questions in the Q&A tab, that would be really, really helpful. Christiana, another disclaimer that we have about questions that may be asked today. Would you like to give us that disclaimer?
Yes, for sure. Here, let me pull this one up. So our disclaimer, Arielle and I both use Descript, but we would not consider ourselves technical experts. Yes, not yet, at least. And this is not a Descript 101, right? So we're not gonna go from A to Z, cover every single feature today. We're gonna look at Arielle's workflow specifically and like the 5 key things that are huge unlocks for podcasters. That being said, Marcelo is an expert. So throw those questions in the Q&A and you'll get those answered, and we will of course answer to the best of our ability. I feel like Arielle is an amazing resource for like workflow unlocks, like we said, podcasting tips, and then for like, what is the buy rate technical something? Marcelo is your guy. But yeah, use the chat for your reactions and your commentary. I've already seen a couple folks say that, Crowdcast is frozen. Refresh normally does the trick. But we're also sending this stream to YouTube right now. So if you're having too much trouble, jump over to YouTube. And that is how this session is recorded. All of our
session
events
is recorded.
Yes,
Always.
We promise. All of them are recorded automatically because we stream to YouTube. You can find the replay as well as the replays for all of our live events on YouTube, but you don't have to go looking for it. We'll send it in a follow-up email. Quickly got to plug help.descript.com. It's your best friend as you get started here and as you continue learning Descript. And please join our community Discord. I'll pull up a QR code in just a second where you can easily join. But yeah, we'd love to see you there. And the last thing I gotta plug is if you are new here, try Descript Pro for free. Use code podcast30 at checkout. You'll get a free month of Descript Pro. We'll send this all in a follow-up email as well, so don't feel like you have to scramble to write that down.
One other thing I wanted to say before we get fully started is that I was following the chat on Crowdcast throughout the week, and there were some amazing questions that were shared throughout the week. Love those questions. Some of those questions we will touch on today. Some of them are specifically workflow related. Some are not, and we will not be getting to them today. So just keep in mind that this is about podcaster workflow. But please do always share your questions with us, especially what you want to learn, because Christiana and I are here to advocate for the community and to create sessions that will be specifically helpful for you as community members. We want to figure out what you need, and we want to bring you those teachable moments. So if you've got ideas for webinars, do let us know by joining the Descript Discord, and there is now a QR code at the top of the screen. And with that, Christiana, thank you so much for indulging me. Now you want to re-ask the question, who am I and what podcast do I do?
Absolutely. And as I pose this question to Arielle, everybody in the chat, please answer as well. So the question is, what podcasts do you do? What podcast is the question? But yeah, tell us about like your podcasts and maybe a little bit of like how you got into this whole space.
Sure. Yeah, I started working in the podcast space almost 7 years ago. I was a listener first, loved listening to podcasts, listened to, 5 hours a day. And this was like 2016. I was just listening constantly. And I never thought that I would be a creator myself, but I knew that I wanted to help people discover their next favorite podcast. So I started a podcast recommendation newsletter, and about a year and a half into running that newsletter every single week, I decided that I should walk the walk because I was giving people advice on how to make podcasts, but I had never made one myself. So I started a podcast to go along with that newsletter. The podcast is called Feedback with Earbuds. It's a weekly podcast recommendation podcast where each week I share 5 podcast episodes on a theme, and each week is curated by a different person, and anyone can curate a list. So the way that this podcast works is that I speak at the top of the show and I speak at the bottom of the show, and the middle chunk of the show is the curator sharing a voice clip about the podcast that they selected and the theme that they selected and why they selected those episodes for that theme. So it's a combo. It used to be an interview show, but I realized over time that it made more sense to be an asynchronous show. So now I go into Descript, I record my audio, my intro and my outro, and then I drag in a voice clip, an MP3 file, usually from an email that somebody sends me with their recommendations. So that is essentially how I set up my podcast in Descript. That's one of my podcasts. That's Feedback with Earbuds. And in a few moments, I will actually show you what that looks like in Descript. And then I have another podcast called Trailer Park, the podcast Trailer Podcast. You may be noticing a theme here, which is that I love podcasts about podcasts. I think that they're a lot of fun, and I think it's a great way to explore the vast world of podcasting. So I went from somebody who never thought that I would create a podcast of my own to having multiple podcasts about podcasts, and I'm sure that there are more to come. The way Trailer Park, the podcast Trailer Podcast works is that I record with my co-host. His name is Tim Villegas. We record on Squadcast, and I am recently somebody who has been using Descript, but before I used Audacity, and my workflow has changed a whole lot since I've unlocked Descript. So what we used to do is we would record on Squadcast, we would download the audio, I would take it into Audacity, I would make my cuts, I would then send it via WeTransfer to Tim, who would bring it into Descript. He's always been a Descript user. He would make his cuts. He would download that. He would send it to me. I would make my next round of cuts in Audacity, back to Descript for mixing, mastering. And it was a whole thing. And now it is streamlined because now I use Descript for everything. Tim and I use Descript the whole way through, Squadcast into Descript. So those are just some of the podcasts that I produce. I also help with a few people on their shows, but it is all Descript for me all the time now, baby, and I'm loving it.
I love it. Thank you for that. You're all things podcast.
All things podcast all the time. People are always like, "What do you do?" And I'm like, "Podcast." And they're like, "Okay, but
Yep,
like what?"
just
and I'm like,
podcasts.
podcasts. Yeah, podcast.
Do you dream about podcasts?
I do. I dream all the time about podcasts. I
just making sure.
Can't get rid of them. So
cool.
I just want to tell folks what my my 5 tips that I'm going to go over are. And then as I get to them, I'll shout them out again. And of course, Please throw your questions into the Q&A tab. We will take them there at the latter half of our discussion. We will leave a lot of time for them, I promise. So today I'm going to be talking about importing files and transcribing those files. So whether you're recording elsewhere and dragging them into Descript or you're recording right in Descript, we're going to talk about how to get those files in there and how to transcribe them. We're going to talk about speed editing your show. This is something that I have loved unlocking because, as I said before, I used to use Audacity to make all my initial cuts, and it took forever. And I'm just adjusting my mic a little bit because I heard that I am not loud enough. So just let me know if this is a little bit better. I am going to be talking about speed editing because I really like the playback speed feature on Descript, where I can listen through my recording at 2 times speed, sound like a chipmunk, but get things done a little bit faster. I'll talk about that. Then I'll talk about using both the text-based editor and the waveform editor. I think a lot of folks who are new to Descript are so excited by the fact that you can edit by way of as if you're editing a text document. And that's really awesome. And it has unlocked so much for me. But some folks, that kind of freaks them out a little bit because they're like, where's my beloved waveform? And I'm here to say that you can do both. You can do both. It's great. And I do both. Then I'm going to talk about how to choose engaging how to choose and make engaging clips for social media using Descript's audiograms feature, and basically where in your podcast should you select those and why is this going to be a better clip than the other one, and then how to make them look a little fun and be a little engaging so that people might be attracted to them when they're scrolling through their social feeds. And then we'll close it out just briefly touching on using Descript's collaboration tools. How does that sound?
Sounds like we're in for a fun next 45 minutes.
Oh boy.
Really quick on your mic front, Arielle, I think maybe it's not picking up your shirt. It might just be your laptop.
You're probably right.
Yeah.
So I'm about to sound a lot better, everybody.
It's so vulnerable to like use mics in front of a crowd of
I'm
audio nerds.
Look at this. I sound so much better now.
Yeah, that's
Oh
better.
God. Okay. Sorry, everybody. Maybe I'm endearing to you now because look, I'm fallible.
Hey, we're all learning, and I'm traveling right now, so I don't have my good mic.
You sound great.
It's a safe space,
I don't
everybody.
even want to click onto here and find out what people are saying about me. Oh, I
People are
appreciate
saying
you
you
all.
rock. You're so awesome. But okay, enough. And I think we got to jump. Let's jump into the workflows.
All right, let's do it. Here is what I'm going to do first, folks. If you are unfamiliar, what is Squadcast? Squadcast is a remote recording platform that helps podcasters and anyone record audio and video in studio quality with anyone, anywhere, and at any time. This is my dashboard on Squadcast. So you can see that this is my organization. I've got my studio. Earlier today, Christiana and I recorded a little demo so that we could have some clips to play with today during our session that we're doing right now. So I just want to show you what that looks like in Squadcast. So if I press this arrow button right here, you can see that we've got our files. We only had 2 takes. So our first take was a short recording. And then we have our second take, which was a little bit longer. So I can expand it a little bit to kind of get a sense of what that would look like. And you can see that here.
Hi, Christiana. How are you?
Can you hear me? Love that. All right, so we can just check that the quality came out really great, and we can also do the same for Christiana.
Okay.
There she is. Look at her. Just a few hours ago, we looked so young. All right, so
I've aged since then.
that's what we're up to. So within Squadcast, if I wanted to just download right to my desktop, if I was just ready to go, I just wanted to download these, upload them to my hosting site. I could, or upload them right to YouTube. I could do that. I could come here, I could download, and I can choose how I'm going to download. I can download the WAV file, the MP3 file, or I can download the MP4 file, the audio and video. Up to me how I want to do that based on my workflow. But in this situation, what I want to do is migrate both my video and my audio to a Descript session. And good news, now that we are integrated with Descript, or now that Squadcast is completely part of Descript, we can do this really, really easily. All I have to do is click the 2 files that I want to move over, and then I can click this button that says Edit in Descript. And for the purposes of the demonstration, I've done this already, so it's already in my Descript project. So I'm going to go there in just a moment. But I want to just pause for a moment and make sure that folks, we're all on the same page about Squadcast, which is a remote recording platform that has just been acquired by Descript, which is an all-in-one text-based editor and so much more. And in this session that we're doing right now, we're really just talking about editing podcasts, but I will touch on video a little bit because video is increasingly becoming something that folks want to explore when it comes to making your podcast and marketing your podcast. And we could do more videos on that in the future, whether or not you need video for your podcast. But for today, I'm going to have a combination. I'm going to have a few examples that are video only and a few examples that are audio only, or video and audio. So we'll do the whole thing. So let's move over to our Descript drive. So this
Arielle, really, really quick, I want to underscore one thing you said. Someone asked, is Squadcast included in Descript?
Oh my gosh, such a good question. And I'm so sorry that I neglected to share. Yes.
The best part.
Yes, it's the best part. Descript, if you are a Descript user, you now automatically have access to Squadcast. And if you are a Squadcast user and you're not yet using Descript, all you have to do is pay for Descript, and then you have access to both. It is awesome, and it just makes so much sense. And we would love to get more and more folks using both because Squadcast is the best. Does that answer that question?
Perfectly said. Yep, couldn't have said it better myself. Go get your free Squadcast, everybody.
Go get it.
All right, back to you.
Back to me. Okay, so we were just on our Squadcast dashboard, but now over to Descript. Fun news, Descript is available both as a desktop app and as a browser app. Right now, I am in the browser. And so I can do most things in the browser.
And right now, for the purposes of streaming, it's easier for us to be in the browser. So I will be doing what I need to do in the browser. So right now you can see I've got a few things that I can play around with. I've got a Trailer Park podcast recording. I've got a feedback with earbuds recording. This is a video. I've got a video of the Squadcast podcast with the co-founders, Zach and Rock. I've got me and Christiana doing a test earlier today. And then I've got a solo recording that I do for my own podcast. So let's click on that one first just to see what that would look like. So this is my podcast about podcast recommendations. And like I said before, I record this right into Descript. So what I've done here is I've pre-recorded this by clicking the record button, and I record right here. So this does not require a Squadcast integration, this specific recording that I've done. This is just me recording right into Descript. It's a solo podcast. So if you are a solo podcaster, this might be a workflow for you. So what I like to do when I am recording this podcast is I go through my script. I have my script on a Google Doc. I'm reading into my Descript, and it is transcribing as I go. So this is post-transcription. And as you can see, it gets a lot of things very, very close. You can see our curator is Nikki Boyer, and then over here it spells Nikki in a different way. So if I were really using this transcript, I would go through and I would make sure everything looks good and is good to go for publishing. But for my purposes, I am not publishing the transcript as is. So I'm really just using this as a way of editing. So let's just listen to a second. This episode of Feedback with Earbuds is brought to us by our Patreon supporters. Thank you so much for supporting Earbuds. So that's me. You can hear me talking about Patreon, and I just wanted to give you a sense of what that sounds like. Sounds great, right? Because I'm using this fancy microphone, and it was plugged in when I recorded, which is really great. And you can see that I've got studio sound turned on already. But let's listen to it without studio sound. So back up to the top. Let's hear that again. This episode of Feedback with Earbuds is brought to us by our Patreon supporter. Can I be honest with you? It still sounds good.
It definitely still sounds good.
It's because my microphone's really good, but you know, let's turn on studio sound and have that, just have the extra protection of studio sound. So this is my workflow. Essentially what I like to do is record my podcast episode, and then I go through and I make sure that I like everything that I've said. So here we've got, hey, Arielle here. How is your week going so far? I don't like that I said so far. What if I just ask, how's your week going? So I'm going to get rid of that. Hey, Arielle here. How is your week going? Have you listened to any? I do not like that at all because it sounds cut off. So let's put it back. Easy as that. Going so far. Boom. We've got it back. So this blew my mind when I first started using Descript. Just that, like, I don't have to go into the waveform editor and make sure that I'm picking apart the right spot. I know exactly that so far is this spot, and if I want to get rid of it, I can. But also, if I wanted to, if I did want to play around with getting rid of the word so far, I can come over here. Have you listened to anything new and noteworthy? Is your week going? Okay, so then let's come down here, and let's look at making sure this so far doesn't sound so cut off. Have you listened? So we can come over here, and we can kind of fade this out so that it doesn't sound like it's getting cut off. So let's listen to that again. Your week going? Have you listened? So I would not necessarily recommend this, but you can hear that it doesn't sound as abrupt. Your week going? Have you listened to anything new? Yep. So that is one of the workflow things that I like to do when I'm recording and editing my own podcast. I've already made most of my edits on this, so you can see there's not much for me to get rid of, but let's listen to our curator, Nikki Boyer.
Hi there. Hi, my name is Nikki Boyer, and
So Nikki has a very sweet voice, but she did say hi twice. So I don't need that. So what am I going to do? I'm going to get rid of hi there. Tackling fear.
Hi, my name is Nikki Boyer, and I am the CEO. And
so there's Nikki Boyer. And what I've done is I've dragged Nikki's voice clip into the Descript session, and I'm making sure that it sounds on level with my audio, because of course we recorded in different environments, and studio sound tackles a lot of that. So if your issue is that you're mixing a lot of different things together and you can't really figure out how to make sure that it sounds equalized, studio sound is for you. A lot of people swear by studio sound, and I actually didn't turn it on until recently, and then I was like, what have I been doing this whole time? So
Yep. Arielle, did you could you repeat just like what studio sound is exactly?
Yeah, I would love to. Scientifically, studio sound is just a really great way to make your audio sound like it has one piece of room. Sorry, I'm reading and I'm also speaking. But yeah, studio sound is a really great way to make your audio sound level. You press one button and all of a sudden it sounds like you're in a studio. And it does this by normalizing, equalizing, de-essing, all of the different cool things that you can do if you use an editor like Pro Tools and you press a million buttons. This does it sort of in one click. And Christiana, you said earlier today a phrase that I really like about studio sound. You said that it's a scale, right? So you can choose how much studio sound you want on. This is 100%, but you could also, if it's overcorrecting or undercorrecting, you could go up or go down based on what you need in order to make it sound like it's really your voice. Because sometimes what it's doing is it's using a high pass filter or a low pass filter to make sure that everything is sounding even. And sometimes if there's like a really loud noise in the background, it might overcompensate. So you just sort of need to listen through and make sure that you're happy with how studio sound has impacted your recording. Does that make sense?
Yep. Yes. Yeah. A quick TLDR is it's like AI powered audio repair. So instead of having to do all of the crazy stuff, it's one click. And somebody asked in the chat, and you turn it on before or after you record. So this is in Descript, so it's post editing. This wouldn't be like, you wouldn't hit studio sound while you're recording in Squadcast per se. You would apply it to the file afterwards.
No, but good news is that Squadcast also has some sound enhancements built in with Dolby. So you've got a lot of tools that are helping you out to have the best sound quality possible. So this is an example of what my podcast sounds like. Some fun things to point out. You can see that the show is currently 13 minutes long, and I mentioned before that I really like to speed edit. So what I do if I wanted to listen back to this really fast is I come over here to this playback speed button, and I often like to edit on 2x speed. So for just a moment, it's going to sound like a chipmunk, but this is the way that I like to go through my editing really quickly, because all I'm really listening for is, did I say something twice? Did I make a joke that I really hate and I should just cut it out right now before it gets embarrassing? Things like that. This episode of Feedback with Earbuds is brought to us by our Patreon supporters. Thank you so much for supporting Earbuds. Now here comes the part where we shout you out by name. Podworks. So if I wanted to get rid of this, I would just know I don't like that anymore. I want to get rid of it. So let's go back to normal speed. Christiana, any other questions from you or from the crowd that I'm missing about specifically editing a solo podcast?
Let's see here. Solo podcast wise, I don't think so.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, no.
I will go to.
You're good.
I will go back to my projects and we'll choose another one to go through.
Cool.
So let's look at this conversation that I had with my co-host Tim Villegas. And you can see that there is going to be an expletive here. So please cover your ears, and I will I'll skip past it. But, everybody's got their blooper moments, and Tim and I did the same. So this is my podcast called Trailer Park, the podcast trailer podcast that I co-host with a guy named Tim Villegas. We met on the internet. Love that kind of story. Shout out your co-hosts in the chat and let me know how you met them. Tim and I, we record our podcast on Squadcast, and we do record video and audio, but for the purposes of this editing demonstration, I'm just going to be editing the audio. We do sometimes use our video for creating social media clips, but for right now, we're just going to be talking about some audio. So I will play from right here so that you can hear what it sounds like before we get started.
That should be it right there.
Yeah. Good afternoon. Good morning, afternoon, evening, middle of the night to you, dear listener. Arielle here. Let's tease some audio, shall we?
Let's tease some audio.
Okay, so you can hear that I'm trying to get my groove over here with all the good mornings. And after a few tries, I landed on good morning, afternoon, evening, and middle of the night to you, dear listener. So as you can imagine, I'm going to get rid of all of these. And I'm probably also going to get rid of this.
Hey.
Good afternoon. Fuck. So we can get rid of that. And then we've good morning, afternoon, evening, middle of the night to you, dear listener. Arielle here. Let's tease some audio, shall we? All right. So right now, let's check. We don't have studio sound on, so I would quickly put studio sound on. And while I'm doing that, I'm also going to name myself. I'm going to add myself as a speaker. Add. Oops. Looks like we scrolled down a little bit. So we've got me as a speaker. We've got Tim. And that's just a really great way for me to categorize us throughout our conversation. It also helps when it comes to choosing clips for our audiograms, because I want to make sure that I've got a spot where both of us are talking, so I can very easily identify that. You can also see down here in our timeline that different colors indicate different speakers. So that's a really great way to sort of keep track of who's speaking more. And that can help you when it comes later on to figuring out, do you ask all the questions when you're the co-host, or do you have a more equitable share? I really like that, just as a way of checking things out there. Looks like we are applying studio sound to both of us, and we are good to go. Good morning, afternoon, evening, middle of the night to you, dear listener. Arielle here. Let's tease some audio, shall we? You can hear something interesting going on there. Do you hear that, Christiana? So it's sort of like bringing me up and down, up and down.
Yep. A little over.
Exactly. It's overcompensating. So what would we do in that situation? I might try a catch-all where I would come on here into studio sound and play a little bit with the intensity, right? So I can just click in there. Let's try at 50%. Good morning, afternoon, evening, middle of the night to you, dear listener. Arielle here. Let's tease some audio, shall we?
Let's tease some audio.
He sounds good. Tim sounds really good. So that is just a little bit of playing around with studio sound. And again, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to edit on 1.5 speed. Let's talk about making some editing decisions here. And sometimes these trailers were made for projects that are seeking some funding. And sometimes they're somewhere in between all of that. Sometimes.
I know, a lot sometimes.
Is it bad? Or is it like clear that?
Or it could be fun. I don't know.
Let me try it again with something else. So that's Tim and I having a discussion about how I say the word sometimes too much. So in that situation, I'm going to cut that out a whole lot, and I'll just slow it down so that we're not on chipmunk speed while I'm going through this. And right now, because I am editing by text, I'm going to actually minimize my my waveform editor, because I know that most of my editing is going to take place over here. So I want folks to really I want to hammer home that you totally have the ability to play around with your editor in however you feel comfortable. If you want to use this waveform editor, you can go up, you can go down, you can zoom in, you can zoom out, you can do anything you want. You can really edit in any way that you're comfortable. And my favorite way is to use both, personally. So in this situation, let's go back to our sometimes. I think we ended up.
Sometimes these trailers kicked off many seasons. Try that again. Sometimes these trailers kicked off many seasons of a show.
Sometimes. So we've got that. And you can hear here.
Sometimes these trailers kicked off many seasons of a show.
Can you hear Tim sort of getting quiet over many seasons?
Kicked off many seasons of a show.
Kind of swallowing his words there. So Christiana, do you know what I'm going to suggest here?
Maybe a little bit of regenerate.
What is regenerate?
Yeah, so regenerate is one of our more recent AI-powered audio features. Basically, it's this magical band-aid of audio repair, where if you have somebody that's kind of trailing off, or their intonation is weird, or there's a cat meowing, you can regenerate that section of the sentence, and it kind of gives you like a new take and brushes up, smooths out whatever it is you're trying to fix.
Exactly. So let's listen back to that.
Sometimes these trailers kicked off many seasons of a show we've all.
Woo! That's pretty cool. So you can already hear immediately, he sort of sounded like he was trailing off before. Now it sounds like it's just a different cadence to it.
These trailers kicked off many seasons of a show we've all.
So I love that. we actually unfortunately already published this episode without having regenerated that, but I wish we would have regenerated that, even though, this is just such a small piece, and you might be asking yourself, like, does it really matter? And that is up to you. It is up to your editing style, but I really do love the ability to be able to come back in there and say, you know what? Let's try that again with more gusto, but maybe you don't have that person in your session anymore and you can't do that. So it's a good idea to just be able to regenerate. I really love that. All right. Let's go to another one of my recordings that I've got back in my projects segment, and let's talk about let's go to what you and I recorded over there, Christiana.
Awesome.
Because this is completely unedited, so we'll go through this, and it's very short. So I want to show something that I really love about Descript here, which is the ability to shorten word gaps. So this is really, really helpful if you are somebody who knows that you pause a lot during your recordings, or you and your co-host like to take a lot of time between questions so you can think about your answers, but you don't want that to be reflected in the final recording. You don't want that to be on the podcast. So you want to shorten all of your word gaps, but you also don't want to go through it line by line and, highlight the sentences or highlight the areas of your waveform editor and make sure that you're doing it one by one. That can take a really long time. So I really love going over here. I like to shorten my word gaps. So I'm just going to click on the button on the top right of the screen. I'm going to shorten word gaps. And what I'm going to do is ask it to, if there is a pause of, let's say, 2 seconds or more, I want to shorten it to 0.5 seconds. And this is something that you'll want to play with on your own. You'll want to figure out exactly, what you're comfortable with, what your listeners are comfortable with. Does it sound too fast? Does it sound too slow? This is generally something that I like to try out. So let's make note of the time over here. So right now we're at 2 minutes and 8 seconds, and we're asking it to find, actually, let's get even more extreme. Let's see if it can find gaps of 0.3 seconds. Let's make it 0.2. Let's just really play with it. Okay, so let's find and shorten all. So right now we're at 2 minutes and 8 seconds. And we're gonna go. We just lost 7 seconds off of that because it shortened a whole bunch. So it might sound, when we go through it now, it might sound very quick, and that's a decision that we'll make as we go. So let's hear some of that.
Okay.
Hi, Christiana. How are you?
I'm awesome. How are you?
You can hear that, right? So it's very quick. How are you?
How are you?
Boom, right? So it might be too fast, but that's something for you and your co-host or your production team to think about, and also to consider as you're thinking about your sonic style. So let's turn on studio sound, because Christiana and I also recorded this before when we were not using microphones. We were just recording right into the system as a test. Let's see what studio sound can do. So it's going to take a minute for studio sound to render. And while that's happening, I am also going to come back to the top and come back to this magic button over here. And I'm going to remove filler words. So filler words are when I say or when I say or when I say something twice. It usually gets highlighted in the script. So let's see what it does when we ask it to remove filler words. And just for the purposes of this demonstration, I'm going to ask it to remove all filler words, which might mean that it could mistake me saying like the article A for UH. So it's not perfect. It's not foolproof. It can be very powerful to find and replace all. So I recommend using this sparingly, but it is a great tool to experiment with. So let's try that. So again, we just went down from, I think it was 2 minutes and 1 second to 1 minute and 53 seconds. And now you'll see some more cuts in our audio over here. All of these faint lines represent a cut in the audio. And you can see.
So I'm in New York right now, but still just.
You can hear that it is very quick, and it is probably not the way that I am going to be releasing my podcast episode. But if I were recording hours and if I were editing hours and hours of content, and I needed to quickly cut down word gaps, and I needed to quickly cut down ums, buts, and ahs, I might consider going through this and then going through my waveform editor and elongating some of those things later, depending on my workflow. So let's go back to the top and let's reverse some of these.
Hi, Christiana. How are you?
I'm awesome. How are you?
So So already I did not go back and change the word gaps, but I did turn on studio sound, and you can hear that we sound a lot cleaner, even though, again, we did not have microphones. So let's, in the remaining time that we have, I want to go to one video project that I have queued up. I'm going to go to this interview that I did with a woman named Cindy Burnett. So let's go to the desktop version. Oopsie. You know what? I have not edited that one yet. So let's go to this one. This is an episode of the Squadcast podcast, Between Two Mics. And I've migrated my files from Squadcast. And you can see here that I've got Arielle's recording and then Rock's recording, Rock and Zach's recording. And if you upload more than one video file to Descript, you'll find that they'll kind of get chunked on top of each other. So you just need to minimize some things and make sure that you can see both of the people involved. So what I like to do is just make sure we're all present and you can see us, and we can deal with making sure that this looks perfect later. But for our purposes, just wanted to elongate that a little bit, and let's give us a background color. Let's go with Descript blue. Looks nice. And then if we want, we can put some fun things over in these sections that are not being targeted right now, or that are not being filled in right now. And let's hear a little bit of this and see our mouths moving as well.
Right. Welcome to the Squadcast podcast. I'm Arielle Nissenblatt, head of community and content at squadcast.fm.
I'm Rockfelder, co-founder and CFO.
So you may have noticed that between our two takes, between when I finished introducing myself and Rock, there was probably about 3 seconds. And what I can do again is come up here and I can shorten word gaps, and I can say, you know what, that's 3 seconds. I want that to be more like 1 second. So I can ask Descript to do that for me. But another way, if I wanted to do this more individually, something that I like to do is come over here and
content at squadcast.fm.
I like to take this little chopper, make a cut, and then I drag it. So we just got rid of a few seconds. And then I have a lot more flexibility when it comes to
content at squadcast.fm.
I'm Rockfelder,
there he is. There's Rockfelder,
and CFO.
So again, this is, in this situation, I'm editing both audio and video, and I am really playing around with all of what Descript has to offer. Editing video and audio will probably take you longer than editing just audio alone, but it will give you assets for social media, and it will allow you to play around with YouTube, podcasting, and other places that you might be able to upload your content. And again, we can do an entire session on why or why not you would record and edit and publish and market using video for your podcast. But I just wanted to give an example of what it would look like to take some content from Squadcast, take an interview. This is between me, Zach, and Rock, but technically they're just one voice file because you can see they're sharing one mic, and what that would look like. So, Christiane, any questions about this?
Let's see here. No. Not specifically on what you've just covered, I think, but we've got a lot of questions. So Q&A will be Q&A will be popping.
Okay, I love that. Anything else
Mario,
you would like me to cover before I stop sharing my screen and we go to Q&A?
Yeah, actually, I was thinking we could go back to filler words really quick. Yes. You talked about deleting filler words, but I was wondering if you could cover the other option, which is ignoring them.
Ooh, wow. Look at all this.
Look at all those. Like what the sort of the difference would be.
Yeah, definitely. So walk me through what a use case of ignoring filler words would be.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I can backing up a little bit. So like Arielle showed us deleting, which means you just click that button and they're gone. You don't see them. Whereas you also have this option to ignore them, which would just gray them out. When you play your podcast through, you won't hear them, but you can still see them. Because one thing that I think a lot of folks might experience is actually that, sounds pretty good there, or I took that out and now it sounds a little bit choppy. So with the ignore option, you can just sort of like plug and play a little bit more easily bringing filler words back that you maybe chose to ignore.
So let me give an example. I won't take out a filler word, but I will strike through something so that you can get a sense of what that looks like. So let's play from here.
You may be thinking to yourself, what? Record scratch, and you'd be right.
So in this situation, I said the word record scratch because I knew that I wanted to add a record scratch sound later. So let's get rid of that for now and hear what that sounds like.
You may be thinking to yourself, what? And you'd be right. Welcome to the last.
So that would signify for me that I eventually want to put in a record scratch there. So that's what it would look like to strike through something and still have it there so that if I wanted to collaborate with somebody and they could make the decision later, they could. So let's briefly touch on collaboration. So Christiana, if I want to add you to this, all I've got to do is press the plus button up on the top. I've got to type in your email and then I can invite you to the project. You'll get an email. And then you are officially part of this project. You can do all the things part of this project. You can view all of my changes. You can make some changes. And then you can even comment on things. So say I really wanted your opinion on this. I can highlight it and I can come over here to this and I can say at Christiana question, what do you think about getting rid of this? And you can say, Arielle, horrible idea. Horrible idea. We must keep it. But I love the collaboration tools. You can bet that is something that me and my co-host Tim are going to be using when we are recording season 2 of Trailer Park, the podcast Trailer Podcast, using Descript, taking our files from Squadcast and editing into Descript. So we've got a lot to look forward to.
Awesome. Super cool. Sweet. Actually, could you share your screen really quick? I just wanted to call out like the different surface areas you were talking about.
Yes, I would love to. Can you see me?
No. Oh. Arielle disappeared. No problem. Folks, she had to go do a podcast, or something, or maybe get a vegan nugget. So while she joins us, I can pull up Descript really quick, and talk you through what I was gonna ask Arielle to touch on really quick. Cool. Let me share my screen. Okay, sweet. All right, folks, so I just wanted to review. Y'all can see that, right? Cool. So here's the desktop app version of Descript. I just wanted to touch really quickly on the different surface areas we talked about. Also, sorry if you hear those sirens. I am in Brooklyn. Let's give it a sec. Studio sound will help me out with that later. Okay, cool. So this is just what it looks like when you have video in your project. This is what we call the canvas. It allows you to edit what it actually looks like. You can move things around like that. This is the script, which Arielle covered. And then this down here is the timeline where you can use all these different tools. So just wanted to make sure we named all of these different pieces so y'all knew what was what. Sweet. Okay, well, let's see. She's back. Arielle.
Hi.
Welcome back.
My computer died.
And
like it wasn't even okay. I switched computers because we innovate, we move. Thank you for dealing with that.
No problem at all.
What did we talk about? What did I miss?
I just pulled up a tab and was showing the different places of canvas versus timeline versus script. So nothing.
Love to hear it. Love to see it.
Nothing crazy.
I'm so sorry, dear listeners, for my computer.
We rolled with it. No, it was honestly smooth. You popped in at the perfect time. We're all good.
All right.
And we did get some good old Brooklyn sirens, and I said how Studio Sound will help get rid of those. PodHelp said Studio Sound may not remove Brooklyn sirens. They will. That's how good it is. Just PodHelp in the chat, and not to put you on blast, PodHelp at all.
Yeah, but you're on blast. You're on blast.
And Jared said, if not Studio Sound, then use Regenerate. So I'm covered.
We've got some advocates for our AI tools. Thank you, friends.
Yes. Awesome. Okay, cool. So how about some questions?
How about them?
Cool. How about them? Sweet. Okay, first one was on Regenerate, which we touched on briefly. With Regenerate, do you need to record a voice in advance, like with Overdub? Do you want to do this one, or I can grab it?
Go ahead, and then I'll share my 2 cents.
Cool. Yes. So you do not need to have an overdub voice in order to use Regenerate. Really quick, you might be wondering, what is Overdub? Overdub is our synthetic voice tool. You train Descript to learn your voice, which you completely own. And so without even recording, you can just type what you want your overdub to say, and it will say it. It's magical. Marcelo, if you could throw something in the chat on overdub, that would be fantastic. But with Regenerate, you don't have to do that. You just anybody can use it right away. So yeah, don't even worry about that. But if you want to check out overdub, yeah, check out the chat. Cool. Anything to add?
Yeah, I was just going to say that with with Regenerate, I think I was also under the impression that initially you needed to give a lot of data, or you needed to put in, hours and hours of content, but it really is just like genius. Like I don't know how it works. I don't question it. I just use it and I go from there.
Exactly. Yes. Cool. Okay, next question. Christiana, how can I get more help on the basics? I'm not techie and I'm new to Descript.
Love.
We have all been there. So just to reiterate, this was not a 101 event. So if you felt a little bit lost, that's so okay. I remember that when I first started using Descript, I was like, how am I gonna learn all this? Because there's a lot. So first of all, empathy, right there with you. Help.descript.com is your best friend.
Help.descript.com.
Yes, it's our basically support knowledge center. We got how-to guides, reference guides. I'll also plug the Discord community, where there are 15,000 plus creators who are helping each other out. A lot of folks in the chat I recognize from Discord. Thanks for being here. And something else fun about Discord is our support team does hang out there. And the lovely Marcelo, who is in the chat today and in the Q&A, hosts weekly office hours. So definitely check those out. He's the best and will answer all of your questions. And then lastly, more events like this. We're going to do a Descript 101 in early October. So check the community page for that. That should be up in the next couple of days. And all of our events, like we said, are recorded. There's a live event playlist on YouTube where you can find like 100 events at this point. So yeah, take your pick there. But great question. Also, just feel free to reach out to us individually. We're always happy to help.
Very available.
Yes.
I also think if you do have specific ideas for sessions, like I said before, we'd love to hear what those ideas are, and we can absolutely build a session based on your questions.
Absolutely. Yes. Cool. Okay, next question. Does studio sound have to be applied to all speakers in the whole recording, or can it be set to individual slices?
I love slices.
I love slices. No, so it's not based on individual sections. Studio sound is applied on the file basis. So it's per file. If you have 2 files, you can do that separately, but right now you can't apply studio sound to just a specific section. It's a great question. Cool. Okay, next. Arielle.
Yes.
Do I access Squadcast separately, or is it on the same place as when I enter Descript?
Such a good question. So until a month ago or so, it was completely separate. Squadcast and Descript were completely separate. Although about a year ago, we did make it possible for you to very easily press a button in Squadcast and get your files in Descript. Now it is even easier because Squadcast has been acquired by Descript. There are buttons that make it super seamless for you to be recording in Squadcast, press a button, have your files like boom, all in Descript, ready to edit, ready to go. In the future, it will be even more seamless. Soon, Squadcast will be completely subsumed into Descript. That is going to be happening. Right now, it's happening behind the scenes. They're working on it. Things are happening. But for now, the two are separate. So you will go to squadcast.fm, and you can also send your listeners, send your guests, your hosts, your co-hosts, whatever. You can send them links within Squadcast. And they'll get those links, and then you'll do all of your recording, and then you will edit in Descript. So you should be able to access them separately, but you're paying just one price, and you're paying just for Descript.
Awesome. Cool.
Oh, and let me just say this. Let me really hammer it home. If you are paying for Descript, you automatically have access now to Squadcast. Yep. So if you were using Zoom before, you no longer have to use Zoom. You can get higher audio and video quality for your recordings if you use Squadcast, and you can just do that for free. If you're using a competitor, if you're using Zencaster or Riverside or CleanFeed or Iris or Boomcaster, you do not have to, because if you are paying for Descript, it just makes sense for you to be using Squadcast.
Exactly. So that's sort of like the Descript. I started out as a Descript user, and now I get Squadcast for free. What about if I was a Squadcast user, and now what happens with my access to Descript?
Yeah, so if you go to Descript, you can make yourself an account, and then you would only be paying for Descript. So your pricing for Squadcast is now within your payment for Descript. So you're overall paying less, but you are paying for just Descript at this point, and you get Squadcast.
Exactly. So basically you get a permanent discount. It just becomes cheaper for you, and you get the entire editing suite.
We've got some breaking news, Christiana.
Spill it.
Okay. Well, it looks like we have so many questions in our chat right now that Marcelo has volunteered to do an office hours. And where can we find those office hours?
Yeah. So let me bring up the pretty link.
Pretty link.
So
it is beautiful.
Scan that QR code to join the Descript community Discord, or click the link that I'm sending in the chat right now. Boom. Hop over there, and Marcelo will lead you to the promised land that is Descript. Cool.
Yeah, we had so many questions, and I think Marcelo was like, you know what, we can knock some of these out. Join him on Discord. He will be on camera, but you don't have to be on camera. You can ask your questions just by chat, and he'll respond to them. And that'll be great. It'll be 30 minutes on Discord right after this.
That's right. Cool.
Should we hit one more question?
Yeah, let's hit one more. Let me see. Honestly, we hit a ton. Okay, this is a Squadcasty one. You talked about replacing Zoom as a recorder, but what about for regular meetings that aren't for podcasts? Can you use Squadcast for that?
You can if you want. I love Zoom for communication purposes. I still have an account. I think it's great. I use Squadcast to record. If I want high quality video and audio in my recordings, I use Squadcast. So if you're just communicating with other folks, you should use Zoom. It's a really great communications tool. It has a lot of features that Squadcast doesn't necessarily have, because Squadcast was made with recording in mind, and it has communication, whereas Zoom was made with communication in mind, and it has recording, if that makes sense.
Exactly. Yes. Perfectly said, I'd say. Okay. Awesome. Let's close it out here. Everyone, thank you so much for joining us. Arielle, thank you for leading us through today's event. Join Marcelo right after this on Discord. If you still have more questions, request a demo, join up there, and he's your guy. But we also have weekly office hours with Marcelo every Wednesday. So come on back tomorrow, 1 p.m. PT, 4 p.m. ET, also on Discord. If you have feature requests, head to feedback.descript.com. We would love to hear them. And of course, just as a reminder, if you need help, if you want to look at some awesome documentation, watch some videos, help.descript.com is your best friend. I'm there all the time still. And I don't think that'll ever change because it's so awesome. So definitely hang out there. We'd love your feedback on this event as well. And also just Descript in general. Head to the poll section and Crowdcast. We'd love to hear from you. And like Arielle said, we take requests. So shoot us a message.
CRL.
Yes. Tell us what you want to learn in a session. We have a bunch coming up for podcasters. Next week we have remote recording. The week after that is video podcasting. I will send those links in the chat right after this. Arielle's on next week with Ashley Hamer, another podcaster, to talk remote recording. So don't miss that one. Arielle, anything I missed before we sign off?
If you took any pictures today, here's one. We would love to see your squad shots. Next time you're in a Squadcast session, there is a camera button that you can press to capture the moment. It makes a really cute image that you can share on social media. We would love to see your squad shots. If you have any questions about that, go to the Squadcast YouTube channel. We made a video on how to make squad shots. And you were about to
go.
Go ahead.
I remembered also, don't forget your month of free Descript Pro.
Get it.
If you're on the free plan or you're brand new, this will give you a month of free pro. Or just type in podcast 30 when you check out. And I'll get you started. Okay, go enjoy your evenings, days, middle of the nights, or go hang out with our bestie Marcelo. The link to join that is up there. Thank you all for being here. We appreciate you, and we will see you at the next live stream.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
All right. Bye, folks.